Terrible, awful, disappointing. That's how Pete Prisco described Week 8 in the National Football League. I'm Chris Hassel, and I have Pete Prisco's brand new power rankings as we head into November. And the top 11 remain the same. It was so bad that nothing changed. Everyone from the Colts at 1 to the Eagles at 11 stay the same. We did have some high risers. The Jags in a bye week move up 7 spots to 13. The Texans also move up 7 spots. They're at 14 as we look at the tier breakdown for Pete Prisco, who had to fight back tears watching some of these games. Look at that middle tier there.
Ooh.
It's 10 teams now in that chasing a championship tier, but the Colts still the best of the best, the first team in about a month to stay at number 1 after grabbing number 1. So it's Colts, then Chiefs, and then Pete's pick to win the Super Bowl, the Green Bay Packers, or at least his pick before the season to get to the Super Bowl. Joined now by Pete Prisco and Leger Douzable. How bad was that, Pete?
It was awful. We were sitting there watching these games, and we're like, is there anything? I mean, the Jets actually had the best game of the week.
Probably.
What do you guys attribute it to?
Talking about the Jets game?
No, just the NFL this past week.
I just think it's the parody of the NFL, and Pete always kids in these.
Parody, the games would be good though.
Well, Pete always kids is anybody really good, right? The Colts maybe actually be the only good team in the NFL, but I just think the parody of the NFL is great some weeks, and then other weeks it's just like there's blowouts after blowouts. And to your point, this past week, besides that Jets game, like most of the games were blowouts this past week.
No, they all were.
Yeah.
Well, it was looking like Packers-Steelers was going to be a great one.
Right.
And then Jordan Love outplayed Aaron Rodgers, and they're number 3 in your power
Let's not forget,
rankings.
we had 6 teams off. And when you schedule with 6 teams off, it kind of adjusts the schedule a little bit, and you don't get the matchups you might want to see.
Green Bay Packers, Pete, it looked a little iffy early on in the season. Then they had that tie against the Cowboys when they gave up 40 points. But they are looking like the best team in the NFC.
When you looked, and I looked at them before the season, and I thought, this before the Parsons trade, I said, okay, what draws me to him? It's the offense. And I thought Jordan Love would take the next step. People didn't realize how hurt he was last year. He didn't practice a lot last year. And they all say in Green Bay, he's a guy who needs to practice. And he didn't practice. Well, he's healthy now. And you're seeing him play like a healthy quarterback. The offensive line is bigger and stronger. It needed to be. They went out and spent money on Aaron Banks at left guard. He overpaid him probably, but he's bigger. They moved Jenkins to center. They're bigger. Morgan's now rotating in at right guard. They're bigger. They're stronger. Then you add the weapons. And I said all along, when they get Christian Watson back, the offense changes. He is the field stretcher. He opens up everybody else, and we saw that the other night. And I think you opened up Kraft. You get everything going. I love this team on offense. And when you score, what do? You turn your pass rushers loose.
Pete, you were right about this team. I'm going to go ahead and give you your flowers because there was concerns from me, and we had this conversation last year. I wondered what the identity of this team would be because going back to last year, Jordan Love gets hurt week 1. They turn to Josh Jacobs, and that becomes the identity of a team. And I'm like, you can't pay a guy $55 million a year to turn around and hand the football off. Well, I was wrong. Jordan Love literally is this offense right now, and you see it right there. Josh Jacobs, he's still highly involved in this offense, more specifically in the red zone near the goal line. He's one of the most physical runners in football. But Pete, at times it looks like Jordan Love is out there playing in the backyard with his friends. He makes the game look easy at times. You talked about it. They had some struggles in the first half, mainly kicking issue struggles. But in the second half, they did not punt versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he had big-time throw after big-time throw. I love that he's so decisive with the football, knows where to go. Tucker Kraft, to me, is becoming the best run after catch tight end in football. He runs away from linebackers and safety. And you talked about Christian Watson coming in and adding a speed element down the field. Jordan Love, in the times where he's not being decisive and throwing the ball right away, he was able to use off-platform and get down the field to Christian Watson. That opens up the offense even more when you have a quarterback that can not only beat you from within the pocket, but is dangerous when he gets outside of the pocket. Right now, Jordan Love is top 3 in my vote. If I had a vote today, he'd be top 3 MVP category because that's how well he's playing. He's elevated his team. People always say, who's their number one receiver? It doesn't matter if the quarterback is distributing the ball like he's doing. I liken it to Indiana Jones and the Colts. There's no true number one guy, but everybody, the sums of the group, make them a good team.
And they have different types of receivers, which is important. You know, you talk about Watson can go down the field. Golden can go, but he can go across the middle. He wasn't even a factor the other night. You know, Dobbs can do all the dirty work underneath. You have bigger bodies if you need them. They have so many guys who can do so many things. You know, there are concerns. You know, can the run defense hold up with the long haul? That's always been a problem for him. But I do think that this team is headed in the right direction on defense, and not just because of Parsons, but because of a lot of other guys taking their game up a notch.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because Parsons allows a guy like Rashawn Gary to come alive. Like, people had a lot of concerns about him making the switch to this Jeff Hafley defense, and it felt like it didn't fit his skill set. But now we're seeing that they're starting to be inventive on defense, where they're starting to stand Micah Parsons up around the line of scrimmage and getting him and Rashawn Gary on the same side. That is tough for offensive linemen to break. He had 2 sacks this last game. You talked about it like, yeah, you maybe have concerns about them stopping the run, but they kind of play like them old Colts teams, right? If they have a significant lead, there's not a better team in the league as far as relinquishing their pass rushers to get after the quarterback, and that's why they're the number 1 seed in the NFC right now.
All right, let's jump outside the top 5 here to the Denver Broncos. Again, the top 11 remain the same, so the Broncos remain at number 6. But Bo Nix completely breaking out. Last 5 quarters, this team has scored 77 points.
Yeah, and look, they had a free space playing against the Cowboys defense the other day. So, I mean, that defense was terrible. They're banged up in the secondary, and he took advantage of it. But that they needed that. The Broncos needed to get Bo Nix back to being Bo Nix. And there were moments this season where you weren't sure if he was having a sophomore slump. Well, that's gone. He's back to being Bo Nix. And I give Sean Payton a ton of credit. He gets guys involved in the offense. Troy Franklin's become a real factor in that offense. And he can run. You can't teach speed. He can flat out fly. So I do think that this team took a big step in the last, that 5 quarters. That game against the Giants, and then also last week against the Dallas Cowboys. By the way, we'll know a lot more about the offense. They play the Texans.
Yeah, that's a real defense.
Is real.
And Pete, you talked about it, right? When you have a wounded animal, which was the Dallas Cowboys, you take full advantage of it. We talked about the offense. I want to talk about this defense because it is the number 1 defense in football. And without their best player on defense, PS2, the second half, the Cowboys have one of the most explosive offenses in football. That's why a lot of people were excited for this game because it was good on good. The Broncos defense versus the Cowboys offense. Without PS2, do you know the Denver Broncos held Dak Prescott to 7 points in the second half and really got after him? I mean, Riley Moss stepped up. Jahdae Barron, a big-time interception right before half where Dak is trying to force the ball down the middle to Jake Ferguson to get into field goal range. Like, they were able to turn Dak over when Dak hadn't been turning the football over. So, to me, yes, we knew this defense was good, but without their best player, for them to still have that type of performance in the second half literally shows this team is ascending to one of those real contenders in the NFL.
They're going to be winning for a while. So
yeah.
They got to learn how to play without.
Correct.
Now.
Big game coming up in 2.5 weeks against the Kansas City Chiefs. Still ahead of the Chiefs, still ahead of the Chargers in that division, and number 6 in Pete's power rankings. Wrapping up the top 10, once again, the Buffalo Bills. And unfortunately, even though they got a win, they lost Ed Oliver. How big of a blow is that going to be to that defense, Leger?
It's massive, right? He's the one guy that you can count on in the interior of that defensive line to create havoc and be a thorn in the side when you're trying to run the football. We talked about this earlier in the year, right? He was banged up, and when he was out of the lineup, teams were having their way running the football, so that's a big concern. Going on the other side, though, right? Me and Pete have talked about this, and I know he's going to give me gruff. I said the Bills are better when James Cook is the focal point of the offense. And it proved to be the case on Sunday. I mean, over
for 200 yards.
Exactly.
I mean, he handed the ball off and it's a hole there. Of course they're going to be better.
Well, you got to think coming into that game, Carolina had been one of the better run defenses in football. So
you said they were, watch out, they were going to bully them.
Hey,
that's what you said.
I'm just saying. But I also said lean on that offensive line and James Cook. Did I not say that?
Yeah. But
and they did that Sunday.
You were wondering if they would get bullied.
I mean, I don't know if they was going to get bullied. I said to me, they're better when James Cook is the focal point of the offense, and then you allow Josh to do what he does. And it showed Sunday. I think you talked about it. You thought Joe Brady had maybe had some struggles calling plays. They got back to who they were on Sunday, and I think that was the big thing. Josh was efficient with the football. Didn't have to do much but turn around and hand the football off when you do have those massive holes. The Bills' offensive line had a great day up front. Andy Dalton, I don't understand what he was doing in that game. Like, you would think he didn't play football for a long time. I mean, some of the sacks he took, the one from Greg Russo, the sack fumble that kind of turned the game, like, you have to be decisive there and get rid of the football. And then the A.J. Epineza interception was just ridiculous. Yeah. Like, when a defensive end runs up the field, just throw the ball on the ground next to him. Like, why would you throw it in his chest and then getting sacked right before half? So you have to love that the Bills' defense showed up and made some plays. But to me, it came back to that offensive line and James Cook, and that's when they're their best.
They do have to pass the ball better, period. And they need to get a receiver. I would search the market for a speed receiver if I were.
Got a week left.
Yeah, I would scour the market for. If I could find some speed, I would get it and bring him to that offense. Palmer's not there, so that matters. Yeah, somebody like that. They need to get some speed. As for Ed Oliver not being there, that's a real big hit to that defense. They haven't been healthy all year on defense.
Correct.
Nobody. They play without their linebackers, and they've had guys go in and out of the lineup. Here's the difference. Okunjobi and Hoyt played last week. They're back off their suspensions. Hoyt had a sack and a half in that game. Okunjobi can step in there. He's a veteran. He knows what he can do. He'll be a nice addition. Deion Walker's playing great as a rookie. And so I think they can get by Ed Oliver. You'd like to have him in the postseason. If you get back for the postseason, that'd be great. That's a possibility. Getting Hairston going. He played 30-something snaps last week, the rookie corner from Kentucky. They need him on the field. They got to get Tre'Davious White off the field. Look, he's had a great career. He's been a wonderful player in his times in his career. He doesn't run well anymore. Hairston runs. That's the difference.
All right, that's the middle tier, the second tier, jumping down to the third tier, and it's a team that's up 7 spots, the Houston Texans. You mentioned their defense a little bit earlier, and they're going to try to showcase that against the Broncos this week, but C.J. Stroud is playing a lot better than he was earlier in the season.
Just comfortable. This was probably the most comfortable I've seen him in the pocket. Now, obviously, San Fran has dealt with some issues with their rushers, so they are way down on the depth chart in regards to guys getting to the quarterback. But it was even the maneuverability in the pocket. Like, so many times we talk about this, young quarterbacks, they drift back. And we've seen C.J. Stroud do that the last couple of years. This reminded me of the 2023 C.J. Stroud for San Francisco. Maneuvering up in the pocket, eyes down the field, playing with confidence. And what isn't talked about enough, his top 2 receivers weren't even in this game. Nico Collins and Christian Kirk were out. He leaned on all the Iowa State receivers in this game, right? And really got those guys going as well. And Woody Marks, we talked about him earlier, not only getting him going in the run game, but the receiving game out of the backfield. We know what we're going to get from that defense. They are one of the top defenses in football. But I love the step that C.J. Stroud took. And the Texans aren't done yet. They got a gruesome schedule, but they're not done yet.
No, and if he plays like that, then they're going to hang around and be a factor. But the biggest difference with the team, the offensive line didn't allow a sack the other day.
They played well. Yeah.
They played well. And that's been the biggest problem for him over the course of the last couple of years. He was protected. And when you're protected, he stands in there and he's confident and makes those throws. And that was the biggest difference.
All right, Pete Prisco's Power Rankings. The whole list can be found at CBSSports.com. We've got much more to talk about as it pertains to that. Pete getting absolutely blasted in the comments of Game Day Recap on YouTube this week for his take on Justin Fields and how he's, what, just a baby?
Well, that's not quite what I said, but you can put words in my mouth if you'd like to.
Oh, the YouTube comments do it every week.
I get blasted in those comments every week from what I hear.
To the mid-tiers of Pete Prisco's Power Rankings. I don't know, Jim. 49ers in there, Bears in there now, Steelers in there now. The Jeff Fisher mid-tier, yeah, that's where the Falcons belong, don't they? I mean, they're just up and down every week. Commanders there as well, getting another loss. Cowboys and the Ravens they actually moved up a spot into the Jeff Fisher mid-tier after just their second win of the season.
I heard them.
Yeah, you got the Vikings that I don't know, Jim, that high?
Yeah, that is pretty high for a team.
That's high.
Maybe
I know everybody lost, but good Lord, that's high.
There's a lot of losers.
You could have put them in the mid then.
We'll see how they do this week with J.J. McCarthy. They might work them way down.
Steelers are at 18. They've given up 30-plus in back-to-back games. I mean, Rodgers is doing all right. I mean, he's playing pretty good football.
No, he's playing well.
The defense, playing really well. How do you win with the defense?
Well, they're 120 in every position. I mean, you think I'm old? You got age at everywhere. Everybody in that secondary is old for the most part, except for Joey Porter. You got age on the defensive line. Hayward,
and they lost Elliott, too.
Hayward's old. You know, T.J. Watt's not a kid. And they're the highest-paid defense in the league. And so all of a sudden you look at it, was there any resistance whatsoever the other night? Any at all? The secondary was awful. I mean, just awful. And where were the pass rushers?
I was just about to ask you, the pass rush wasn't much better either. So, like, T.J. Watt just got that massive deal. And the last couple of weeks, he's been a no-show. And you talked about the people.
Are you saying he's washed up?
I'm not saying he's washed up. Now, I'm on record saying this. I thought they should have traded him, especially because they needed a quarterback for the future. They should have got the draft capital for next year's draft to try to move up. Especially with Herbig and his trajectory, I would have traded. I'm on record saying that, so you can go ahead and put me on the same.
So that's a nicer, kinder way.
I'm saying he's washed up.
That he's washed up.
I'm just saying he's not been the guy he's been.
He's not been the same player.
He's not been the guy. The thing is, they tried to go a little bit more man coverage. They weren't able to do that versus those young receivers from the Green Bay Packers. And at times, Jordan Love was able to just sit back there and survey the field. I talked about that throw to Christian Watson. He had the ball for like 4 or 5 seconds and then rolled out to his right and found him down the field. So right now, the Steelers are in trouble. And we said this earlier in the season, just looking at their schedule, it's ugly coming down the stretch. And when you look at the Ravens, I know we're going to talk about them next, and you see games that they got coming up. They play the Colts, then they play at the Chargers, right? They still have the Bills, Ravens, Lions, Ravens again. Like, they can literally lose all those games.
Right.
And it's at the Bears, right? It's not like it's at home.
Right.
So, like, you talked about it, Chris. Like, Aaron Rodgers has played well. We were wondering maybe he needs another weapon on the outside. The offense has not been a problem for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's clearly been the defense. That Steel curtain is a thing of the past.
But they didn't protect them great at times in that game, and that is a little bit of a concern. But you look at that schedule, they're going to have a tough time winning that division no matter the fact that the Ravens won last week kind of saved it.
Correct.
But right now, this team is floundering. And the fact that it's not the offense, because a lot of people thought it would be
I thought it would be for sure.
the defense, and that's the biggest concern. When you say bad defense in Pittsburgh, that's like a bad phrase to say anywhere around.
Well, they are not the favorites to win that division, despite still holding a 2-game lead in the loss column on everybody else. It's the Baltimore Ravens now at minus money to win this division after picking up a win over the Bears. Ravens are sitting there at 22, but Lamar Jackson potentially back this Thursday against the Dolphins.
Short week, that's tough. It'll be a real challenge to him. I mean, are they going to say he's practicing or not practicing or limited or how is he? I mean, we already went through that game.
Exactly.
I think he plays this week. You know he wants to play down here. He's
not missing this game.
And so I think he does play, but how healthy is he? That's the question. Because even last week, Huntley doesn't run like he does. But you saw he had to run.
Correct.
And he got out and he did run. So I'm curious to see how healthy Lamar is, and is he still able to be Lamar? Because if he's able to be Lamar, but then again, what am I talking about? Playing the Dolphins this week.
Hey, Dolphins looked good last week.
They did play good. I give them a lot of credit. Dolphins play good football, but you know what you're going to do when you play the Dolphins. They give up 5 yards per rush. Although the Falcons didn't do it, turn and hand the ball off to Derrick Henry 25 times.
So if you were the Ravens, would you maybe rest him one more week, the way that Huntley played this past week?
No, I'd play him.
And like you said, coming down here, this is his home. He's going to want to play. I remember vividly his first MVP award. Remember, everybody was calling him a running back at the quarterback position, and he carved them up with Hollywood Brown. So he's going to want to be highly motivated to play in front of his friends and family at home. One thing we're not talking about, Pete, this Ravens defense the last couple of weeks has played really well.
Roquan Smith woke up.
Yeah, he's back now. He's back healthy now. Like, all the guys in the secondary are back healthy now. So when you look at it, that Rams game, that was a close loss, and it wasn't because of the defense. The offense didn't give them any help. 17-3. That defense played really well versus a Chicago Bears team. Coming into the game, DeAndre Swift was running the ball against everybody. They did not get him going enough, and it was partly because of what the Ravens were doing on defense. So, Pete, I remember I did my top 5 rankings of defense, and I thought the Ravens would be in that 2-3 range, but they hadn't played that well in the beginning of the year. I think they're starting to finally get healthy, starting to finally gel. We saw Mike Green signing early in the game. He got a sack early in that game. As those guys continue to develop and guys get healthy, this Ravens team could make a push for this division.
Yeah, I think they're a victim of postseason-itis. And by that I mean, and I've said this before, when you do everything in your power to get to the postseason, you get to the postseason, and it doesn't happen in the postseason, all you think about is, well, we got to get back there again. And you kind of lose sight of what you got to do each and every week. And I think that hit them. I know it's a challenge for every coach. You talk to coaches. That's a challenge to keep them focused on the now and the regular season rather than peek ahead to the postseason.
Well, we have some huge AFC games coming up on CBS, and NFL Today is going to be on the road for a couple of them beginning this week. The Bills and the Chiefs. That is Sunday.
Give me all of that.
Yeah, first one to 50 wins. And then in a couple weeks, the Chiefs go to Denver to take on the Broncos, who are in first place right now. All right, into the trash can, the bottom of Pete's power rankings. Oh, there's only one dumpster fire. It's the Titans, the Jets,
You made it out.
We're out of there, Pete. We're out.
You made it out.
Jets win
We're
a game.
just down bad now.
And they get out of there, but they're still behind the New Orleans Saints. That's where we're going to go here. And the Saints are making a switch. They benched Spencer Rattler last week in the middle of the game, and they have announced on Tuesday Tyler Shuck is going to start against the Rams.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's a product of Rattler playing
Correct.
so poorly as you got to find out what you have in Tyler Shuck. Because if Tyler Shuck doesn't show anything over the course of the rest of the season, then you're going to go into the draft and draft one next
100%.
year. Now, if he plays really well and gives you hope and optimism about the quarterback position, then you might be able to, A, peddle your pick, get more draft picks because they have cap hell and they have all kinds of issues, or draft a quarterback. So I think it gives them the information they will want to decide whether they need to make a quarterback pick next year.
Yeah, in spurts of this season, it looked like Spencer Rattler could have maybe secured that job for the future, but too many drop passes from the young receivers. They've really struggled on that ball. They haven't consistently been able to run the ball. Actually, Kendre Miller was probably their best running back as far as running the football, and he's out with an injury. Spencer Rattler can't have the 2 turnovers he had. You got to be able to protect the ball once you tuck and run with it. But to Pete's point, this is all about seeing what Tyler Shuck is, right? You're 1-7 right now. If not now, when? And I would say look for Spencer Rattler to maybe be a hot name for a team potentially trying to trade for him. Right, teams need backup quarterbacks. We've seen multiple quarterbacks go down this year already. I can see if he's not going to be part of the future, why not get some draft capital for him? You already talked about they're always in cap hell for how they do and structure their contracts. Why not try to get some draft capital? And if Tyler Shuck isn't the guy, that gives you more ammo to move up and get your guy.
Titans in a class of their own, though.
Awful. Doesn't matter if you fire the coach.
They trade over there. They fire sale over there.
By the way, the quarterback's not playing very well. And in fairness to him, he doesn't have a lot around him. So he's just not playing very well.
All right, Titans, the dumpster fire at the very bottom. Pete has an entire article, a lot of words. How many words you put in that thing?
I don't know.
1,000 or so?
I know, but I do know that thing irritates every person out there every week.
The power rankings?
Yeah, because he says nobody's good.
No.
And they get mad about that.
That's true.
The Eagles,
Anybody even
the
any good?
Eagles fans are mad at me right now. So.
Well, the Eagles came in once again at number 11.
They forget
part
that
of
they
those
lost to the Giants
top
2
11
weeks
that
ago.
didn't move.
They played well
All right.
Sunday, though.
Pete Prisco's power rankings at CBSSports.com, the full list and explanation.